we're at this point in the year, depending on when you watch this. And there's this moment between grief and gratitude. There's a sense of projects, of tasks, accomplishments, goals that may not have been met. There may have been loved ones that have not gone over to see a new year. There may have been things that have left us wanting to look at the lack and grief that comes in with saying goodbye to another year, to another phase of life, to another time marker, if you will, depending on when you find this. And there's this sense of how do I hold grief? How do I look at what maybe didn't quite happen? And also still have gratitude for all of the things that did happen and know that I want to put that gratitude forward going into the new year. And so we're kind of caught in between in this moment, and this can happen at any time of the season, right? Any time of the year when we're shifting from one season to another, when we get out of winter and we go into spring and we move from summer to fall and we're shifting and we're really understanding this sense of time lapsing and time moving and how things are going and whether we are hitting everything that we have desired and accomplished or as close as we possibly can or not at all, but we have a lot of growth going. And we have to really recognize that grief is just a part of the process and that there's a compassion and a love that we can have for all those involved of knowing that this is just a cycle of life, that we can still feel an emotional connection and also know that we have to move on and go forward and find that in between and be grateful for the moments that we had and be grateful for the moments that we're about to have. And so there's just this nice reminder anytime that there's a time marker, anytime that there's a specific holiday that you like to celebrate or a season that's changing, some way I love where we can take a moment to reflect. And the end of the year is always the biggest one, but you can find this and do this at any point or milestone, especially even in your own personal life. When you're celebrating different types of anniversaries, different types of remembrances, and this marker of time just to see, not to sadden us, but to just have a moment, understand that loss is part of life, and that we can be grateful that we get to experience all of it. And sometimes when the grief is thick, it's really hard to have gratitude. And it takes a moment for that fog to lift and to move forward, but we know we can comfort it and know that it's only going to take a moment. And there's a certain point where on its own time, it'll leave like a guest in a house. We don't keep the grief. We just allow it to move in and out. And the gratitude, however, that can stay with us the whole time. That has a permanent place in the home. That has a permanent place within us. And we can always find gratitude and be so grateful for even just the smallest of things. Just the moments that we have, the sun shining in the window, the warm cup of coffee in the morning, the comfort pillow that we get to sleep on. And as we're looking to figure out this next phase, this next big milestone, this reset, we can be grateful that we get another year. We can be grateful that we get another season. We can be grateful that we get to experience this thing called life, even when life gets difficult, feels overwhelming. We can still be grateful to say that we walked through it. We walked through it as courageous and brave as we possibly could. We did the best that we could. We showed up in the best way possible. And we're moving forward because that is the only thing you can do in life. That is the only change you can make is that you keep moving forward. You keep moving on. You don't look back. You don't look back. You don't go back. You don't go back to old places, old relationships. You keep moving forward because you have grown and you have changed and you're not the same person you were back then. You keep moving and you keep growing. And you find that grief and gratitude are actually tethered together because for one, ending becomes a beginning. And so we must quietly compose ourselves as we move through grief, as we move through the sadness of what was, and know that we're walking into something wonderful of what is to come, and being grateful for the present moment of being able to acknowledge the two in between and being in these two worlds. I feel like it's always kind of a dichotomy for me of I'm always in between two worlds, between the spiritual world and the material world, between virtual and real, between here and there, in my thoughts, in experience in the world. Excited for what's to come, grateful for what has been, and also understand that certain parts of life, they have to go and they have to keep rolling and they have to keep moving. And what was, we live it to its fullest. That's why I talk a lot about living as best you can and designing a life that you love, because when it's time to move on and go forward, we come to terms with a lot of things. We come to terms with a lot of change that has to happen for growth, for new. In order for new anything, we have to clear space away, which means we have to get rid of the old. We have to declutter. We have to make room in our hearts, in our minds, in our spaces for new. And we can't really lament too much on the past because we need to move forward. And we just take it in cycles and waves and we let it happen and we don't hold on or grip to any of it. There's enough gratitude to go around. We allow grief to come and go as it pleases. And we know that we're grateful for the next day to come forward. So as you're moving through this, and if there's something that's really sad or saddening you as things are ending, things didn't get accomplished, add 2 spoonfuls of gratitude and you should be fine. And that's the medicine that goes down so that you can make sure that you don't stay there. So just think of 2 things that you're really grateful for: the air in your lungs, the sun shining outside, a peaceful night's rest. Keep it simple. Keep it something that you can look at right now and you can be grateful for and thankful for. And that quantum and magnifies, that quantum leaps you and magnifies you. And the grief gets a little bit smaller. And then the grief has its place and it knows where to go because you've given it compassion. And then we go forward and we keep having gratitude. So as you move forward and you may have to juggle these emotions, always lead with gratitude. Always lead with gratitude in whatever you can find, even if it's just the smallest of things, to help balance it out so that we have equalness in ourselves and inside of us. Thank you all for being here. I love you all. Hopefully, this was of benefit, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.